Welcome back, everybody. We're getting ready to start a new project here in our shop. Before we do, though, we kind of focus on the early Mustangs, early Broncos, Chevrolet C10 trucks of all years, and of course the second-gen F-body stuff that we do a lot of. So things usually come in pairs. I say if we're doing Mustang, we'll usually get 2 or 3 Mustangs in a row. It just kind of works out that way. Same thing with Broncos. And so I guess it's only fitting, since we're doing the Pro Touring Trans Am, that we get another F-body here. So let me get the camera turned around here and show you what got dropped off to us yesterday. So this is a 72 Camaro shell that got dropped off to us yesterday. And as you can see, the car has already been sandblasted, so we know exactly what we've got to work with. And I'll just let you be the judge of what it is. It's pretty rough, but that's okay. It's like I told the customer, these cars, every one of them have rust in them. No, to varying degrees. I get it, but one of the things that I love about our job here is that we're able to take something like this that looks like it's literally destined for the scrap heap, and we can turn around, fix it, put it back on the road, and even turn it into a show car if that's what the customer wants. So this is what we've got. It's pretty rough. Again, floors have got a good bit of rust in them. All typical stuff, though. We see this a lot, on these cars. He did drop us off a couple of parts to work with. We've got some floor pan sections here. We've got a rear body panel, a new trunk floor, gas tank braces, a new rear body cross rail, and we're going to go ahead and order some new quarter panels. And as we tear into it today, we may discover we need the trunk extension or the drop down areas as well. Probably will, but we're going to jump in here and start tearing it down, getting it ready to where we can actually work on it. Got some wiring to take loose. This panel back here still has the trunk lock and stuff in it, the little bracket there that we'll need. And again, it's rough, but hey, we can fix it, right? So let's jump in here and get after it. So we're going to go a little bit more in depth on this car than what we did on our Trans Am. We're going to start by removing this trunk lock here, getting it out of the way so we can get this last section of rear body panel out of the way. We really need to keep this bracket. We need to salvage it off of this section here for the trunk lock and trunk latch area. So we need to salvage that piece. So we need to get all of this apart. There's the little bezel for the lock. And we can get the lock out of the way. Some of this stuff is already loose here. So we're just going to take all this. We'll bag all this stuff up and keep it so the customer has it. Whether he puts it together or if we put it together, we'll know where everything's at. Try to get all this old tail light wiring out of the way. Now we've got a ground wire to take loose, and then we're going to take the tag lights out and get it out of the way. We can get all the wiring out of the way. Now we're going to take a Phillips screwdriver and come in here and take our tag lights loose. And again, we will bag all of this stuff up and label where it goes. So whether we put the car together or the customer, I'm pretty sure we're just doing metal work on this one at the time being. So we want anything that we take off of it, we're going to label of where it goes. Again, these are just some Phillips screwdriver. We'll take care of these. Pretty sure they're going to be replaced. I would, but again, the customer's got a little bit more involvement in this build than some of our other builds that we do. do that, we'll bag all these up. Let's see, we've got a ground wire here to take loose. Stick that one right back where it goes, because again, we're going to reuse this bracket here. We'll take it loose from this panel here, and then we'll actually reuse this section here. So move this out of the way and remove all this wiring. So again, organization goes a long way. So when we talked about bag and label everything, we use just cheap sandwich bags that you can pick up. You can get these in different sizes, but we put all of our parts in here. This one is just for the trunk lock. So we've got our lock, our bezel, and then we kind of reassembled with the nuts and stuff on the back side of that. Put it in a bag that we get just an old box that we've got parts or whatever that came in, and we'll put all of our parts that we take off of the car into a box, and then we keep that there with the car. So moving to the inside of the car, I want to go ahead and remove all of this old wiring, this old insulation, some of these interior plastics that are left in here. Just kind of get all this stuff out of our way, make sure there's no fire hazards when we go to cutting and welding. And I'm pretty sure most of this wiring, if not all of it, will be changed out, but we're just going to remove all that, get it out of our way. We also have a sun visor and the old seat belt still in the roof. We're going to remove those as well too. So let's jump in here and get started on all of that. So we're going to start with this bulk of wiring here. There's a block that's mounted to the firewall. There's two 5/16 screws that holds it into place. We're going to remove those. All right, so we have that. We have one wire there that needs to come unplugged. Like that. Now, next thing I'm going to do is go ahead and remove the pedal assembly here, get all this out of our way. So the next thing I want to do is remove this brace here. There's two bolts here. You have a bolt here and then one bolt coming in from the bottom. I'm going to remove it and go ahead and get it out of our way. Now, what I like to do, once we remove this bracket, there is a ground wire there that will take loose. But I like to put the bolts back in where we took them out. It's just a good, easy way to keep up with everything, and so we don't lose it. We'll just put it in there, a couple of bolts hand tight, a couple of turns, and then we'll stick this one back in the bottom of our brace here. Now let's get that ground strap removed. It had this little bracket here. So again, we'll just put it right back on there, and that way we can keep up with that. Pretty sure that holds the flasher there on the back side of that bracket. We'll set that to the side. We're going to go ahead and remove the pedal assembly. And to do that, they have these little retaining clips here that's on the studs that holds those into place. This one we've already kind of broke loose to get it out of the way. So we're just going to take a flat screwdriver and get in here and pry this down. And then you can see, once we get that out of the way, our pedal assembly will drop out of the way. Now the master cylinder and the booster has already been taken off of the firewall, so there's nothing there to hold it, and all the nuts is off of it. Sometimes if you can get them loose, you can actually turn those and get them out of the way. Sometimes they come off easier than others. Typically, you can pry them right on out of the way. So now with those two retaining clips out of the way, we can drop our bracket down and simply get out of the holes. There on the firewall. That gets that out of the way. So we can now remove the rest of our wiring harness. So with the brake pedal assembly out of the way, the majority of this wiring harness was just loose. There is a little clip right here on the back side of that. It's just a metal strap that holds that up. Most of this just pretty much come loose. We've got to unplug the dimmer switch. We've also unplugged plug here for the rear body section. Once you look at this, it looks like the majority of these have been cut and then just butt spliced back together at some point in time. But this section runs down the rocker panel here on the driver's side going to the rear of the car. We'll remove all that as well. Let's get this dimmer switch unplugged here. And it broke too. And we can remove all of this. So once we got all of our wiring and insulation off the firewall, we did go ahead and remove the one sun visor, and we removed both seat belts here off of the roof, just to kind of get all that stuff out of the way. And I've kind of had a minute to step back and kind of assess the situation and to decide how we're going to proceed and move forward with this project. So I've kind of studied the floor pan here that we have. Now again, customer provided all this. I'm pretty sure it came from Classic Industries. This is a partial floor pan, so it does not come all the way over and meet up with the trunk extension the way the factory does. This one actually stops somewhere here in this area, which poses a little bit of a problem for us because we have a lot of rust here around the bumper brackets on both sides. The passenger side's definitely worse, but there is a little bit of rust there on that side. And I know once we change out the quarters, we're going to have to go ahead and change out that trunk extension and probably the one on the other side as well. So what I want to do, I guess, I'm going to start back here on the trunk. I want to remove these bumper brackets, get those out of the way. We're going to take some good measurements of where our cross members are here for our gas tank mounts. We'll get those measured and marked out. I want to remove this bracket there for the, I think that's the spare tire mount. And then we can kind of go ahead and set our floor into place, kind of see what we've got there to work with. We'll have to go back in and hand fabricate a lot of this area over here. We're going to try to salvage those bumper mounts. And we'll kind of start back here. Once we get that in there, we can maybe go ahead and change out that rear cross rail before we move forward. That way we've kind of got this area kind of buttoned up, and we'll kind of know what direction we're going here. So let me jump in here and get some measurements real quick, make sure we've got everything marked where it needs to be. Go ahead and cut these other brackets out of the way, set them to the side, and we'll get going on this trunk. With our bumper mounts removed, we just cut out the floor, the mount, everything here. So we're going to come in and we're going to separate the section of original floor from the mount. And what we're going to do is, you can see here, there's a couple of spot welds that we're going to grind down. And then, of course, on this side here, here, and here, we're going to grind those out. And then we'll remove the floor pan from this bracket, and that'll just leave us the bracket, which we can then take and go through the sandblaster and clean that up. So what I want to do, we've got the little bracket cut off here. We went ahead and cut the rear body panel out and the gas tank straps, and I kind of trimmed up the floor a little bit where all this was just kind of jagged. I want to go ahead and set the floor in here, and let's just kind of see where we're at, kind of get an idea of what we're looking like. Okay, so what we have, I already know I'm going to have to do some trimming here on this floor to get it to fit. So when this comes up, the back here, this little area here is hitting on the shock tower there. So I'm going to go ahead and notch this part out on the floor so that can kind of fit in there a little bit better. And then we can have a little bit better idea of just how much we've got to trim off of this new floor. So what I've decided to do is I've kind of laid out a little rough cut line of where we're going to cut this floor for our initial cut. And basically all I'm doing is, when this thing kind of comes up at an angle and then it lays down flat, I want to cut that flat part off and see if that gets us a little bit closer to where this thing's actually going to lay out in the trunk. So we're going to try round 2 after we trim the trunk up here. Just get it off the back. We're going to see how it fits now. It's a lot better. Lots better. Let me show you a little closer of what we've got. So as you can see here, everything just kind of slid down into place once we cut that little bit of metal off there. Still got a little bit of trimming to do, looks like. Of course, this is still setting up a little bit higher. But what I want to do is I want to go ahead and take a Sharpie, and I want to come in here and I want to mark this edge here where this lays in here. And we'll do that all the way around, and I'll at least know that that's the maximum of where I want to cut. So once we put our line in here, I'll actually come in and I'll cut back here. That way we can get all this metal here out of the way, and then we can do our final mark of where we got to trim. So now we've marked that, we've pulled the floor pan back out, and you can see that all I really want to do is I'm trying to accomplish is I want to get this bend right here out of the way so my new floor can actually sit down flush on top of this floor here. So that is the absolute furthest out that we want to go. I don't want to cut this area here just yet. What I want to do is I want to come inside here and mark over about a 1/2 to a 3/4 inch from this line just to get this out of the way. And then once we get the new floor set down in here, this line here may change a little bit. So I don't want to cut that line just yet. Up here at the top, I didn't mark all the way across. I put a couple of lines here of where the floor sits. I'm probably going to come back in down a little further here and actually mark somewhere across here and come across and just kind of cut the rest of this section off at the time being. And then the same thing on this side here. I don't want to cut all the way over to that line. I want to leave me about 3/4 to a 1/2 inch over from that And like I said, we're really just trying to get this bend here out of the way so the new floor panel can actually sit down flush on top of this panel. So you saw me there, we cut all the floor out that we had marked, and it ended up being right on top of the frame rail there, which I had a feeling it was going to. So we had to grind and cut out some of those spot welds there. And after we got the floor out, we come back in and just took the belt sander and kind of run over those top edges of those spot welds to clean up the top of the frame rail. So now let's go ahead and set the floor pan back in and see what that looks like. So we got the floor set in, and we just put some temporary 5/16 self-tapping screws there on each side to kind of hold it in place. And right now, all I'm really doing is how this floor kind of laid down. It kind of set down where it really wanted to sit. And I'm kind of lining up this line here with the line that was already in the floor here. And the same thing on this side here, trying to line that up as best as I can. So what I want to do next is go ahead and finish cutting out the rest of this rear body panel, rear cross rail here on both sides. We'll go ahead and fit that in, and I've got the new rear body panel, and we can kind of line it up with the original quarters that are there and just kind of see where everything's lining up and how it's all going to fit up here before we go too far. So again, just temporary screws, and then we're going to go ahead and cut the rest of this rear cross rail out. So we got the rear cross rail, the old one cut out, and we've got this one just kind of held up there temporarily with some screws and a couple of vice grips to hold it in place. So now we're going to set the floor back in and just make sure how everything's lining up with that. Nice. So we went ahead and clamped on the rear body panel here with a couple of clamps on top and a couple down low here, just to hold it in place temporarily, just kind of get an idea of what we're looking like, making sure that our body panel and the trunk floor and the rear cross rail all kind of lines up the way that it needs to before we, do any drilling or marking or cutting on anything. We also need to do a little bit of work here. While we've got it on, I want to go ahead and mark the body panel here from the inside so we know where to drill our holes once we take that off for the spot welds. And then on the corner over here, I'll move this light where you can see, this corner of the floor kind of rolls out. We're going to cut that, and once we fabricate our new piece to fill in this corner, we'll redo this to where it lines back up with the rear body panel, and then we can put that rear bumper mount back on as well. So again, everything's looking pretty decent for it to just be mocked up into place. We're going to go ahead and I'm going to call that about all I can do here for today. I've actually got to leave a little early, running an errand, but we'll pick back up on this first thing in the morning and take all this back apart. We'll mark the inside of that, get ready to be drilling all of our spot welds out, and then fit it all back in and hopefully weld it up tomorrow. So that finishes up part one of this video. We're going to go ahead and wrap it up. We'll pick back up on the next one right where we left off. So until then, be sure to like and subscribe to our channel. And if you've got a comment, question, leave that below. And until next time, we'll see you.